Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a parade of storms bringing very heavy rain and some flash flooding. Then all eyes turn to the tropics heading into the weekend as they look to become more active. Then our big storm will be on the way with a pretty big cool down and a snowstorm and more severe weather. Welcome back everyone. How's it going? I appreciate all my followers out there and my new followers to the channel. So if you are new to the channel and you like detailed weather breakdowns on North America and the tropics, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the old water vapor imagery this morning on the North American view. And yes, this is still remnants of K, still making impacts in parts of the country with the complements of the monsoonal flow coming back with all that moisture for the desert Southwest, while the midsection of the country is experiencing much drier conditions behind that cool front depicted on all that drier air. So it's really nice and comfortable for you guys. While parts of the mid-Atlantic is dealing with that upper level low, and right along the coast there, yeah, they had some heavier rain this morning in portions of Connecticut. They've already seen 2 inches of rain, and they're expecting some more rain later on this afternoon. And then we'll head towards the tropics, where they do look to become a little bit more active heading into the weekend. But on the water vapor imagery, you can definitely tell and see where the heavier rain amounts will be later on this afternoon, with the surge of moisture coming in from the Atlantic and the Pacific, as well as portions of the Gulf of Mexico here with that tropical surge in moisture. But if we take a look at the overall setup as far as our heavier rain amounts, we can definitely see the complements with the combining with the monsoonal flow and the remnants of K. Yes, we do have a moderate risk for flash flooding today in portions of southern Nevada, here in Utah, and northern portions of Arizona, where they are expecting some flash flooding later on this afternoon as this just tropical surge continues to be inundating this area, while portions of the Northeast gets that upper level low moisture, and they're dealing with those heavier rains in parts of upstate New York, getting into New York. Those will filter into Connecticut this morning, where they already seen it, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, while Florida deals with just the surge in tropical moisture, just kind of conveyor belt of moisture down there in that region. So up to the north, yeah, this is later on this afternoon about noontime. Like I said, they're going to be experiencing just kind of waves and waves of moisture into that area. And if we kind of zoom in to the parts of the Northeast, you can actually see some of these pretty intense thunderstorms by about noontime. This DBZs are hitting over 40, and some of these amounts are over in the 50 to 60 range. That's definitely indicative of very intense rainfall right in the Providence area. And look at that, just south of Providence, that's where they saw all the flash flooding in those 6 to 8 to 10 inch amounts just in the last week or so. And they're expecting more heavier rains to impact those same areas and be going into Boston, eventually head off into the Cape later on this afternoon. And then tomorrow, we almost kind of have a little bit of a repeat where we still have that monsoonal flow. Now the remnants of K will surge a little bit further off to the north. So now the heavier rains set up in portions of eastern and northern Nevada into Utah, and those will start to creep into portions of Wyoming, as well as portions of New Mexico, while Florida still continues to remain wet, at least the central part of Florida. So if you combine the 2 days alone, you can definitely see where all the heavier amounts will be on the graph on the right-hand corner of the screen, with those multiple inches of rainfall. That's why they do have the moderate risk of flash flooding in place in this part of the country. So definitely be on high alert. Flash flooding in the peak, usually peak afternoon, with these diurnal heating type thunderstorms. But up to the north here, into the Northeast, where they do have that marginal risk in place and that upper level low will continue to move out, they're going to be left, leaving over 1 to 3 inch rain amounts that are going to be pretty common up here, while Florida just gets those daytime heating thunderstorms for them. But then now let's turn to the tropics, because obviously it's been pretty quiet. We've had 5 named systems. But this little system down here, I talked about these systems. If they remained weak, on the weaker side, they might be able to undercut some of that drier air. And that's essentially what this little system is. Now they upgraded to a 40% chance of development over the next 5 days. And it's got pretty good inflow with this system. And models are starting to become pretty bullish on this system. In fact, the EPS guidance is up to about a 90% chance of this forming in some sort of tropical entity in the next 5 days. And that would take it westbound over the Leeward Islands. And a lot of indications has this going over a good chunk of Puerto Rico by this weekend. So if you live in Puerto Rico, I got a lot of followers in Puerto Rico, I'd be at high alert and watching this system on a day-to-day basis, and I'll definitely keep you updated on this storm going forward. But by this weekend, we could be dealing with a tropical storm, if not peaking up to a hurricane by then, because the overall ensemble member guidance has a lot of members on the European guidance, has in it coming together and really starting to develop. And by the time we get into this weekend, we could be on the cusp of Tropical Storm Fiona. And then actually some models actually take this up to a hurricane. So if you are getting value from this video, I need you to hit the like button right now. So let's take a look at the overall setup on the Icon model. Now the Icon model is the most bullish model. And in fact, it actually really starts to intensify after it impacts Puerto Rico as a tropical storm. Then it turns northward and really rapidly develops into a hurricane, if not a major hurricane. So models are really starting to come together on this system and really starting to become a little bit more bullish on this particular setup, at least take it further off into the west. In fact, if we zoom out and look at more of the ensemble member guidance, we have more and more members. We do have some members that are gravitating towards that icon pool, but most guidance has it continuing pulling further westbound, taking it over the Leeward Islands, taking it over Puerto Rico, taking it over the Turks and Caicos, those areas, and then get it into portions of the Bahamas in about a 7 to 10 day time span. So we got plenty of time to watch this system, but it does look to impact several land masses in its wake. So in fact, if we zoom in to some of these precipitation anomalies, this is very concerning for this time of year. In fact, it's really, like I said, it really expands, becomes if not heavy, if not copious rain amounts into portions of Puerto Rico, especially as you head into the Dominican Republic, at least on the northern side, and then into the Turks and Caicos. This is the overall precipitation anomalies over the next 7 days. So this is definitely pretty concerning, sending very heavy rain amounts, multi-inch, up to 10 to 12 inches of rain possible at these areas with this particular system, upcoming over the next week. And if we continue the guidance, yes, the European guidance continues to have the old tropical type surge. So it continues to pull more and more members and more, heavier rains, and puts the heavier rains further into the Western Caribbean, impacting more of Jamaica, back into the Cayman Islands as we head deeper into September. And if we go through the last week of September, it pulls more and more moisture further closer to the United States. So definitely we'll be on watch in this system. We're still got plenty of left in hurricane season. So that's why I'm here for you on a daily basis to keep you well ahead of the storm. So let's take you back to the United States, because it's kind of a tale of two halves. For the first half, this is over the next 5 days between now and this weekend. We're going to be watching some big changes out west, where we do have just the remnants of K, and the monsoonal flow will bring overall cooler conditions for the west after they dealt with all that record heat for an extended time frame, while the midsection of the country now starts to heat up with the ridge starting to build in the middle part of the country, where they're going to experience widespread 90s coming back. But the big change definitely comes by Monday of next week, where this huge surge of a trough that comes in with this bowling ball type trough pattern comes in with well below average temperature anomalies, and definitely bringing the coldest temperatures of the season, while the west of the country is going to be like, pal, what are you talking about? There's no cold air to speak of. We're baking in the 90s, if not close to 100 degrees out here. That's September, folks, for you. That's where the wild swings come in. We're going to start seeing this more and more often as we transition into fall and as we transition into September and October with these cold fronts impacting parts of the country while the rest of it leaves high and dry with well above average. So we're going to be seeing wild temperature swings with huge temperature gradients. But underneath that, like I mentioned, we've got a pretty big surge of vorticity coming down into the Pacific Northwest. These isobars really start to tighten up in this neck of the country. So we're going to have to be concerned. And if you take your eyes down here in the Baja of California, could be Lester, right? We just dealt with K. If you're looking at this and say, hey, that's where K was. Exactly. Could be a little deja vu type setup with another system right off the coast, another probably tropical storm, if not hurricane, by then, just south of Cabo San Lucas. So we could be dealing with another storm out there while we do have what could be Fiona out here in portions of Puerto Rico. So yeah, here's the moisture coming back into play. Finally, Portland ended their 67-day dry spell. They had a little bit of precipitation officially. Now I think we're going to have a lot more precipitation coming back with that trough coming in, but that won't be until late this weekend, especially heading into Monday with those atmospheric river type rains coming back for our northern branch with our particular storm. But underneath that, man, it's going to be plenty cold. I mean, this is to ring in. This is September 20th. So this is this time next week, waking up on Tuesday morning. This is feels like what it would feel like out there. All these areas in reds are right at freezing, if not below freezing. So for a good chunk of the country, we are expecting some pretty cold air going to be impacting this part of the country and the Pacific Northwest, and that is going to bring a clash in temperatures and some severe weather with it. So out ahead of it, we're going to be looking at for possibly severe weather setting up on Saturday and portions of the upper Midwest. So we're going to have to be looking out for that. And that just continues into the day on Sunday. That would actually continue the day on Monday, as well as portions on Tuesday as well. So definitely a little bit busier setup as we head towards the later part of this weekend, heading into early part of next week. And here's the overall precipitation going forward for the next 7 to 10 days. So we have the remnants, what could be K, was K, now it could be Lester out here into the eastern Pacific, bringing very heavy rain. And then you just have that conveyor belt of moisture for Florida. And then to have that tropical surge with the monsoonal flow, the remnants of K, and then the trough coming in, we are going to bring some more rains back for the Pacific Northwest, but then heavier rains. These are more likely snow up here in this part in Idaho and Montana, and that upper level low, that 850 low will traverse into Canada, and underneath that, that's where the severe weather will be. And then further to the north, and into the northeast, you'll be adding to those rainfall totals as well, while a good chunk of the south under that ridge of high pressure is under that drier conditions. But here's the snow. So here's the snow over the next 7 to 10 days with this system. We could be looking at our first pretty good snowstorm heading into this part of the country. So for Idaho into Montana, I know it snowed a little bit of last week in Montana, but you're going to be adding to those totals into Montana as well as Wyoming. And those heavier snowfall totals will creep into portions of Utah as well as the Rocky Mountains. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.